I'm Mathew Ursua here from the little Mexican restaurant at the corner there by San Diego State University. I don't know. I'm not even going to edit the math in. But we're here, and what I wanted to show you was it's on Facebook that I'm $500 bill guy. I'm on the $500 bill. That's how high value I am. I created so much slavery by getting real estate financing from the banks. It's a higher level than Donald Trump. They had to put my face on the $500 bill. I created so much slavery by financing my way into billions of dollars, real estate billions, that now everything costs more for everybody. The little things we all want to do cost more. And so what are you going to do about it? Anyway, what we're talking about, since we're here, real estate, real numbers, and real freedom. You see right there these beautiful ladies under the rope lights downtown. My MTS Charlie there, NASCO dealership yard, dynamics. See that little general dynamics? It's Tida Matson, Matsonia Matson. How come I don't have a son? Matson's son. Because if you don't play, you don't play in this game. We're trying to fix the problem, but I digress. So what we're talking about is there was a chapter in mine once I was a reporter where I looked up the facades of glass panes of storefront, 60-degree night, Hawaiian winter. Air that's crisp but not terribly cold. Everything's relative. I like it terribly cold. I like it terribly cold, I guess. It's not cold enough in Hawaii. It doesn't freeze my skin. No, I talked about being cryogenically frozen. No one, it was there in the library today, Ted Williams. Anyway, no one is on the streets 4 in the morning as I walk alone in the buildings in the area of Ward Avenue. And I talk about things falling apart and places going to being trashed. What happened at Ward Street Mall in 50 years, these Ward Avenue storefronts will look like they do now. And I think about how maybe there will be rust on the metal and tarnish on the stained glass signs, and you're seeing a lot of revitalization there at 4th Street Mall. And of course, what I was walking past at the time was the then emerging back in 2016, 2017, around that time, 2015, Ward Village area, Howard Hughes. And now what's there is something called Merriman's incredible wine menu. And you hear they're in Maui, and they're also right there in Ward Village. There's a lot of things happening there. This is the Merriman's restaurant. They have this lamb. They're Oahe Street. That's what it is. So you look at that, that's what it is. And I was seeing all of that go up, and Hawaii was starting to live its dream to the extent that it could have become Manhattan. You know, as I watched the Kakaʻako area go up, it was under the HCDA development area. That's really, and it just coincided with Hawaiian Airlines adding on a JFK on its route map under then CEO Mark Dunkerley. But what we want to get into is what this is all about. If you read the book, you have to read the book. That's kind of the context of it. Is that there's all these restaurants going up, but I can't even go into one. I don't even know how to go into one. It took me 10 years to realize, okay, even if I had someone, I was writing about this also on Substack. Where are we here? See, I should have this ready beforehand. We don't have a lot of time. Here, there's Marina Riker. There's Starleaf. There's Kelly Simon and Carlsbad, and there's look at these. That should be, and Ted Williams. Speaking of Ted Williams, look at that, right? Sydney Ray James from my school. Marina Riker, look at her right there. I don't actually dislike Marina Riker, despite the fact millions line up, and she's got insurance kind of stuff. But look at her. I put her in a film script. Evolution of broadcast. I should be in this film script, if you know what I mean. But let's go back to this. So even if I found Marina Riker, I thought, okay, well, we're going to go to... back then they had a restaurant called Gordon Biersch. Gordon Biersch was there before HPU shit on Aloha Tower Marketplace, and back then they had Gordon Biersch there overlooking the Matson ships being tugged in by South Brothers tugboats in the port of Honolulu Channel. So I was writing about this stuff. And what I wanted to say, even if I had Marina Riker, 10 years later, I realized as I was being run through all of this stuff and I started just running simulations and going out and walking through the world, I would not be able to dine in a restaurant. And that's one of the core realizations underpinning all of the research that's going into my new book I'm trying. By the way, there's a book I want to write before I come out with the next book. which is it's a book using San Diego as a kind of geographic, geometric, esoteric, moral lesson. Anyway, but I digress. So that said, there's a man named Michael Savage, and he's up in San Francisco, Bay Area. Michael Savage. Michael Allen Weiner, a University of Hawaii alumni from the botany program. He studied botany so that he could do Melaleuca. He wanted to sell Melaleuca or something like that. And supposedly he jerked off Allen Ginsberg in Manoa Falls or something like that, you know, who was jerking off to Jack Kerouac. We all know. So, anyway, I digress again. We were talking about Michael Savage. I recall, and so it's a lot of listening to Michael Savage in the car late at night on the rebroadcast on AM 830 KHVH is the channel we had. I think they used to carry Alex Jones too. You only hear Alex Jones in homeless shelters these days. You hear that blaring in Vegas at the Courtyard there on 4 Master Lane, KHVH. So you hear, they'd have Alex Jones on for a period of time, and then there was Clyde Lewis, and they had, of course, Clyde Lewis was always it followed George Noory, who was the successor to Art Bell on Coast to Coast. Coast to Coast is a very important thing to me. Just Coast to Coast. Art Bell is a big Pahrump thing. Art Bell is a big Pahrump thing to see. Went there and died there and talked about the lights. Pahrump. But anyway, back to Michael Savage driving around in the Saturn Aura, the 08 Saturn Aura, chasing after police, firemen, and paramedics in Honolulu, taking photographs during those years, building my historic disaster images portfolio. You can go through here and take a look through some of the things. I'm compiling the whole thing, but this is all the stuff I did. We're fighting this incredible battle to make sure that all across the country information is kept open, not only with making sure police can't encrypt all the radios, and we don't have this very robust culture for photography in all these places that matter to me, from San Diego to Los Angeles. Well, it'll never change in Los Angeles. I don't know about that. There's a lot we have to do for. And other areas that are going dark, like property ownership information, so we can't find concentrations of wealth in fourplexes in La Mesa, let's say, or apartment buildings in La Mesa Village or somewhere in Oklahoma, and we can knock on people's doors and say, hey, look, let's do something, work with me, or kids going to El Cajon High School should be looking into this stuff. They can't afford $200 a month to have it aggregated, by companies that they can buy the data from. It just ends up creating a situation where it's in front of a paywall with children and kids in middle school, and if you're going to El Cajon High School, or if you're going to Granite Hills High School, I don't know, wherever you're at in the world, you should be looking up this data. So that's a rich girl there, and I better start dating her so I can get their properties. Their properties are better than panties, I would say. But Michael Savage, I recall hearing on his radio program, since we're talking about this, hearing these girls drinking wine, sitting out, let's call it gas lamp quarter, something like that. It's all around San Diego town, all around the world. Oceanside as the coaster or the Amtrak was the surf liner inches in from Orange County, passing through Irvine, San Clemente. Jessica Homrich married some guy from The Office. Jessica Homrich McClune became Jessica McClune. That's not her there. Anyway, let me get to the point, because I have these theories. I'm going to come out with a theory, which is that could bars and nightclubs have therapeutic value? and this was a question I had asked. So Michael Savage says something on his radio program about studies that were done or proposed about a kind of bar and nightclub therapy for integrating homeless and poor people into society and raising their level of functioning by essentially giving them etiquette training for the experiences like the ones you'll see here at the Gaslamp Port in San Diego. Partying and dining, where the hypothesis might have included training for the fruits of productivity, would also increase productivity, where the skills to go out and have a good time, from dining in restaurants at various levels and partying in various types of parties with various levels of inebriation, and I'm going to use the word wildness here, e.g. nightclubs and bars that can be classified by noise level and wildness that way, might also be the skills necessary to earn money to be in these wide array of establishments. So this video is going to go on for at least another 5 minutes. I wanted it to be very short, but just a word about where we're at. In view are some of the, I don't know, fraternities, sororities, all this Greek alphabet stuff. It's a university area that I happen to be at. And there's a weird little hypothesis I've come up with about commuter campuses that don't have that Greek life versus campuses that have that. I wouldn't say San Diego State University really is a party school, but it could get a little louder than, say, a commuter campus like the University of Hawaii, where Michael Savage went. And that the students that can withstand rowdy parties and where things get loud, and I don't know if Drew Afualo knows this because I happen to know where she went to school. She wrote a book. Drew Afualo wrote a book called, what was it called? What was her book called? Loud! I mean, she may or may not know this, or she may have got her party from somewhere other than, Manoa Falls. But there tends to be a difference in physical makeup of the students. And there's a term I've been hearing called full disabled students. And so this is my hypothesis about it, which is, and so I've got this, I'm writing The Dark Parts of Wisdom, going into this, and I think I talked about this before. I've written 5 times War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. This is over 1 million words of original text, and of course, if you're going to publish something, it's never going to be that long. That's what ends up on the cutting room floor, and usually it ends up looking nothing like the War and Peace that you've written, or 5 times War and Peace that you've written, and that's what the stage we're in now. But I want to get that back, so I just go in and I ask, questions about if I got an idea. Here's how I want to structure it. What did I say about this? And so let me just read out, which is Mathew Ursua, the speaker and writer, talks about bar and nightclub therapy and intensive etiquette training for enjoying the fruits of productivity as a way to increase an individual's marketable skills and productivity and network. Explain his arguments. Ursua argues that many conditions, autism, schizophrenia, that are medicated for by psychiatrists are actually consequences of other factors, less often organic mental disease, but rather classical responses like Mask of Sanity, classic psychopath stuff, the Joker, to understimulation. Start thinking about it that way. Now here's where it gets really, and this is going to have to be for future videos, and we will have some quick videos as I observe things all around me day to day going forward. But when you think about it this way, you get very dangerous because you start to uncover the eugenic function of certain people, and this is why I brought up Michael Savage. Certain people not being invited to the party, and I mean that, of course, figuratively. So he also talks about how individuals that are ugly and not performing well academically in meritocracy-based communities, for instance, teens that are performing well on college track, scholarship track, they'd be encouraged to be sexual early, and parents would give them a place, for instance, if they had timeshares or rental properties to have teen sex. Whereas a special ed sibling, for instance, would be discouraged from that and accordingly suffer repression. Keyword repression from our liberal handbasket that's going to hell, because having a girlfriend is icing on the cake, just like going to parties and getting money to host friends at restaurants down the road. is icing on the cake that goes to well-performing siblings, so some of this is sibling research, rather than the underperforming ones, where the real secret, Ursua seems to argue, is that with these social and sexual things, more money has to be thrown at the underperforming and struggling sibling. Shipyard. Not the one that's actually, according to the classical definitions, according to the community's conventional wisdom, deserves it. So if they're born sickly, if they had health conditions like asthma and therefore had greater pain sensitivity at earlier ages, they probably walked slower, more carefully, much the same way that they develop less coordination on time because of it, and they only end up encouraged to walk and act slower. For instance, with a autism skills trainer, you see all around San Diego, it's a really big thing. It's just an observation that I have is in more meritocracy-based communities where it's high equity or it's an expensive place to live, you have this phenomenon. And so they're always, there's CARD downtown, there's TERI up in North County, in Oceanside. They're always deconstructing the person's decisions and actions and keeping them away from the NYU-bound high IQ girls that he ends up always making moves for. I'm talking about like in high school and also high school, and redirecting, the key word is redirecting from that world, him to focus on a pre-approved conversation with a special ed girl that can be set up where he is in earshot so that he can be monitored for appropriateness and he can be immediately redirected for saying so-called grandiose things about college and international travel, Cuban cigars, bidets, and luxury living and corporate finance. Like he's brokering real estate or something at 15 years old. And this leads to two main things, which is one, lack of muscle tone and strength and fast twitch muscles that prove necessities for sex hookups, especially core strength, and that's more than just sex hookups. Because two, not being invited, or to furthermore, two, not being invited, one of the things it leads to is not being invited, getting those little cues from opposite sex partners in the hall that essentially green lights a completely nonverbal sequence involving touch, where a boy can get pheromones from a girl and make out with her more, and touch with the opposite sex is welcome rather than taught like an institutional thing. It's off limits, it's taboo, rape. And because they never have a failure to launch girl kind of thing, the experience of life is completely different. And the skills trainer tells the youth to just look at pornographic magazines to quote, relieve yourself of those urges. Please identify where the writer talks about these things in the transcripts and how he talks about them quote thoroughly and explain his positions. So he goes in and finds the stuff. So psychiatry substitutes drugs for missing life training. Autism and schizophrenia are recast as deprivation syndrome. So there we go, sensory deprivation. This is classical psychology 101 kind of stuff. Sensory deprivation tank experiment. If you're going to start hearing voices because you're not around the party. He argues that teen autism and schizophrenia symptoms may emerge from sexual repression, poverty, family overcrowding. That's why I talk about things like, in the medium, I talked about why children need to think about leaving their parents in Hawaii, and 40 people living in a house in Foster Village or Waipahu or even Teruya because of multi-generational living scenarios created by economic reality where things are expensive, so they can buy their own home in a cheaper rural area on the mainland, which I would like to say is rural Nevada or even an emerging community in Las Vegas, but that's even getting very costly now. And I'm talking about Alabama, I'm talking about Michigan. But you don't have the privacy to do what couples do as a married couple. And you don't in an environment like this. There's a lot of repression that emerges from it, and that's just what we're seeing, multi-generational living scenarios. The underperforming person needs more money, not less. So Ursua's inversion is that the struggling sibling or disabled youth needs more investment, rooms, clothing, travel. They need to be sent in their teens internationally. Restaurants, tutoring, body training, social training, access to higher status peers. You need, because of your situation, you need to be dating a girl that goes to, so let's go back to Hawaii, use a Hawaii example. Punahou or Iolani, Lauren Teruya. Miss Hawaii 2022, you need to be dating someone that's already on track. Her family's paid the lawyers, they've paid out Miss America, and if she doesn't make it in the top 3 in Connecticut, then she's going to be still very loved. Miss Chinatown 2022 back home. Well-performing child already receives the rewards and reference points. So, 4, the social and sexual is mostly nonverbal. This is a key point that I made. He writes that the hookup happens 100% non-verbally, where verbalized monitored interaction is a skills training template. In his view, what template teaches is the wrong reality, which is scripted speech instead of time, touch, posture. So we can list this out. These are key things: time, touch, posture, pheromonal proximity, speed and confidence. Muscle and speed, number 5, are cognitive social infrastructure. He repeatedly links body composition, muscle, speed, and cognition. 12 October tapes, clubbing I never got to do, took a toll because there is a speed your body can't reach. He also says clinical psychology's quality versus quantity relationship talk de-emphasizes putting on muscle and developing better neurology earlier, which you can't separate those two things. Medication, in his theory, enforces level appropriateness. He attacks CBT, ABA, and the Diagnostic Statistical Manual frameworks and says that the issue is not the so-called autistic should be drugged, but that society slows everyone down or medicates the subject into compatibility with a lower social template, as in you can tolerate a home with lower ceilings because your value is deemed by others. And Michael Bernard Beckwith up in LA is always disabling reality, and the way he does it is so beautiful. Reverend Michael, Agape International Spiritual Center, Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith. Always talking about all right. Luxury and etiquette or productivity. I want to finish my point on high ceilings. That your paycheck is a false appraisal. Luxury and etiquette are productivity inputs. He treats restaurants, bars, nightclubs, because much the same way that early in life, before we're touching money, they use the word adulterated, you're dirty. So before we're touching money, everyone's a little more equal, especially in the public schools. And so, that the way that it's kind of mediated is, well, if you're ugly, so things are more Marxist economy in that way. It just is. So you have to use different approaches to appraising capital, but then, adulterated. Now, that capital, for instance, with beauty, as I brought up Lauren Teruya, that's Hawaii 2020. Now it's appraised with currency, the dollar, the pesos, the euro, whatever you want to put that in. To what extent? Well, you have to start the Marxist find out. He treats restaurants, bars, nightclubs. Number 7 is that luxury and etiquette are productivity inputs. And he treats restaurants, bars, nightclubs, campaign trails. I'm going to be president of the United States. When I started hearing demons in elementary school communicate with me, when I saw the camera cranes descending upon the look of a camera crane, I just knew I was going to be on that podium. President of the United States. Airports, hotels, gated communities, real estate circles, elite women. Elite women. As training environments, the point is not fun after productivity. It is that learning to handle the fruits of productivity, or rather training for the fruits of productivity. It's not about the stewarding a resource pool. So, but that's the kind of point I was making, is that now it's not that the girl's not going to give you that little cue to touch her. At a certain point, you're going to have no money to go into a restaurant. And so there's no way the hookup's going to happen because you know that you can't afford in someone else, because that's just a reality. As you're walking through the same streets as someone else that does have money, the person does have the money to just take the girl into a restaurant, let's use the San Diego gas line quarter, is going to just spontaneously hook up with her because he's got the money to pay for the date. If you don't, then you're going back to homeless shelter. And the point is not fun after productivity, it's learning to handle the fruits of product, or rather, training for the fruits of productivity teaches the same poise, speed, speech, confidence, and market behavior. Market behavior later produces income. And there you go.